Please, Tracy. President Coleman. Here. Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee White.
Here.
Trustee Lundy.
Here.
Trustee Heron.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie.
Here.
Trustee Thomas.
Here.
We have a quorum this evening. Thank you, everyone. Nothing under public hearing. Under appointments and presentations this evening, we have first a proclamation honoring Volunteer Week and Mary Oschenschlager. I think Mary's not here, right? Okay, I just want to read this proclamation. That's the wrong one. My apologies. For National Volunteer Week, April 21st through the 27th of 2024, honoring Mary Oschenschlager. Whereas the Village of Sugar Grove is joining other cities nationwide to celebrate National Volunteer Week in honor of community volunteers. And whereas we celebrate and pay tribute to the amazing efforts of volunteers every day. And whereas volunteers are an invaluable resource and are the heart and soul of our village, county, and nation. And whereas during Volunteer Week, we honor Mary Oschenschlager for her exceptional dedication to volunteering. And whereas Mary has been volunteering at the Blisswoods Forest Preserve as a steward for the last 17 years, her primary responsibility is to plan work days that occur on the fourth Saturday of each month. As part of her role, she is in charge of gathering all necessary equipment, coordinating with volunteers, and creating a plan for each workday. And whereas Mary is a member of the Kane County Forest Preserve Foundation, working to offer opportunities for the Forest Preserve. And whereas for 10 years, Mary volunteered at St. Catherine Dressel in Between Friends Food Pantry, providing help wherever needed. And whereas Mary's incredible contributions to our community, whether lending a helping hand or simply being a source of encouragement, extend far beyond the tasks she undertakes. Her kindness, generosity, and unwavering commitment have made a significant impact, making the world a brighter place. Now, therefore, I, Jennifer Cohen, Village President of Sugar Grove, located in the great state of Illinois, hereby declare April 21st through the 27th as National Volunteer Week. It is with the utmost honor and gratitude that we recognize Mary Oschenschlager for her selfless contributions to our community. On behalf of the Village Board and the citizens of the Village of Sugar Grove, we express our heartfelt thanks. I'd ask for a motion to approve this proclamation.
So moved.
I have a first out of Trustee Heron. Second? Out of Trustee White. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Up next, we have a proclamation honoring Arbor Day, which is coming up here. Arbor Day for 2024, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lower heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our village increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of our business areas, and beauty of our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And now, therefore, I, Jennifer Cohen, President of the Village of Sugar Grove, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the Village of Sugar Grove. I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and I commend this observance to all of our citizens. Furthermore, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Can I get a motion to approve the proclamation for Arbor Day?
Make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first out of Trustee Michaels and a second out of Trustee Shomas. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Thank you. Up next, we have a proclamation on record for honoring Vacation Week. It is on file with the village board. I'm sure you don't want to hear me read any more proclamations, so I just want to recognize all the hard work of everyone with TRICOM and their services that they provide to our emergency services, our fire department, and our police department. So, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the proclamation that is on file, honoring National Public Safety Telecommunications Week for April 14th through the 20th?
As stated.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a first out of trustee Shomis and a second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please.
Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy.
Aye.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Up next, I have a proclamation honoring National Work Zone Safety Week. This is in honor of all of the folks that are working on our roads and roadways. Please be diligent as you're driving. It is construction season throughout Illinois and the nation. Specifically to our Public Works Department and our Brad Markle, who is not here. We thank them for their services and everything they do and keeping our roads safe. So can I get a motion to approve the proclamation honoring National Work Zone Safety Week, April 15th through the 19th?
As stated.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a first out of trustee Bonnie and a second out of trustee Karen. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Heron.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee White.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy. Aye. Trustee Thomas.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Up next, we have airport report. Tony.
Good evening. Couple items from the Aurora Airport Advisory Board. The meeting was last week, Monday, April 8th. They did get some money for a grant to rehab the auto parking lot, but they're waiting on agency agreements before they can get started on repaving the parking lot there. They also got money for their perimeter road repaving. That's also held up with agreements before final approval. The hangar addition, the one that we talked about before, that's currently under FAA review. The Rev Fuel Farm, that's under FAA review. They do have some new snowplow or snow equipment coming in. That should be hopefully here before the winter to assist their operations. And the solar farm, which we all know about, is under review. Obviously, it's in the process. So a lot of things right now are in a holding pattern while they're trying to get it. The sign, it been discussed before for the airport, but it's part of a larger City of Aurora sign package, which includes signs for like downtown and other parts of Aurora. So that's also under review. So basically everything is in the process being reviewed by the city. So that's all I have at this point.
Thank you. Any questions? Just one, when you say it's under review, and I don't mean to be on spot, but the solar is under review with the airport. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean?
Well, it's going through the process,
Through
obviously.
us, it's going through the
Correct.
process, okay.
Right.
So it's not like under a separate review with the airport?
Well, it still will be after this part of it,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Okay, up next we have public comment on scheduled action items. So just bear with me one moment as I move through these. Under consent agenda this evening, item A, we have approval of the minutes of the April 2nd, 2024 board meeting. Item B, we have approval of the vouchers. Item C, we have approval of the treasurer's report. Item D, a resolution approving an agreement between the Village of Sugar Grove and Sugar Grove Corn Boil. Item E, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Sugar Grove and Sugar Grove Public Library District and for shared space and services. Item F, a resolution approving a PSA for HR Green for Phase 2 engineering for US 30 and Municipal Drive crosswalk improvements. Under general business this evening, we have item A, an ordinance approving a special use permit community solar number 1 for Aurora Airport. Item B, an ordinance approving a special use permit community solar number 2 Aurora Airport. Item C, approval of the Village of Sugar Grove Main Street resurfacing project Phase 3 engineering agreement. Item D, a resolution, Village of Sugar Grove Main Street Resurfacing Project Joint Funding Agreement. Item E, an ordinance amending village code, eliminating leaf burning. Item F, ordinance zoning amendment, route location and limitations for solar collectors. Item G, a resolution approving contract with Four Seasons Landscaping for landscaping services at village entrances. Item H, an ordinance approving and setting a public hearing date for proposed TIP District Number 3 at I-88 Illinois 47. Those are all our action items this evening, so if you have any public comments on any of those items, we have, Scott, you have a
Yep.
list? Okay, Scott will go through the list and everybody has 3 minutes.
Sam D, I got the last name. Okay, thanks, Sam. We'll wait when the item comes up, if you don't mind. Scott Richmond.
I'm on the discussion item for Waterford Place.
Okay, thank you. Phil Kuhn, I assume same thing? Okay, great. Perry Elliott.
This is regarding the redevelopment plan and setting the date for that. I have some issues from the financial side of this because I'm sure all of you read this redevelopment project, eligibility report redevelopment plan. It's just, the problem I have is there's really no details in it on how they get to any of these numbers. There's nothing in there that indicates the sources of funds to pay redevelopment project costs, nothing regarding issuance of obligations, financial impact of the redevelopment project. I think people would like to know what that's gonna be, the demand on the taxing district services. I know that's been another area of interest. Even though the TIP district is on the Crown property, it's gonna take access and other activities throughout the village, and there are gonna be costs associated with that, road repairs, additional demands on taxing body services and so on. There's really nothing on the fair employment practices or affirmative action plan and prevailing wage agreements, which these are mentioned, but there's no detail on anything, and the phasing and scheduling redevelopment. I guess, I know there's still a redevelopment agreement to take place, but before you send this thing to go to a hearing, I think you would want to know what the details of it are so it can be scrutinized at the hearing. I mean, they've got numbers here. You've all heard them before, $350 million. They've got site cost, site preparation of $110 million. And there's really no substantiated facts or figures in there to really tell you how they arrived to these numbers. They said it's from information they gathered being in the market and from the developer. So they do have those numbers. I don't know why they don't show them somewhere to at least justify how they get to those points of cost, which, as I said, do accumulate to $350 million. May not take that, but that's what's being authorized. And I still haven't heard anything regarding the benefits to Sugar Grove proper. I know the district, the funds are gonna be restricted to expenditures within that area. I'd like to hear a little bit more. I mean, it's been almost, 2 years? They should have some idea of how we're gonna benefit from this as taxpayers as well.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you.
Daniel Anton.
Board, why vote no for rooftop solar but yes to solar factories? The solar petition should get sent back to the zoning commission as they were incomplete from the start, and the zoning commission did not receive the full application nor review the full application. To bypass the zoning commission is to reduce the importance of their decision-making and show they're not equals with the trustees. If it doesn't get sent back, then why is there even a zoning commission to begin with? The board report from Walter and Daney under 2B completeness of the application is still not up to date. It states, reviewed by village staff and is deemed complete. I think I've debunked this numerous times and is not complete. Ordinances are violated. Village trustees already talked about that at the last meeting, and village staff is incompetent. That will be a topic for another time. The board report under 2D, applicant identity, says Suncode LLC is the applicant. No, the applicant for special use permits is Suncode Energy LLC. Previous documents and meetings back this up, as well as the special use permit fee paid under Suncode Energy LLC by my FOIA request. The solar company should pay the fee again, resubmit their application under the proper name, Suncode LLC this time, and follow the ordinances if that's what they choose this time, and not by made-up business names and application, which I've already proven because they submitted application for Suncode Energy at the time of that meeting. The company was not properly vetted by the City of Aurora or Progressive Business Solutions. What the board should do is just deny the applications and move on so we can all get back to better and brighter things. The board documents have not been updated to reflect the concerns of board members at the last meeting and to delay the vote. They don't clearly indicate that it is being decided upon and are vague, probably on purpose. There are still no recordings from the zoning board meetings for trustees or the public to listen to on solar since they started recording the meetings in March after my request. I have on tape Walter confirming that the meetings were to be taped, so where are they, Walter? Handwritten notes include barely anything on the Raybird's ordinance change meeting. Trustees are still relying on bad information. Mr. Rayburn pays the same amount of money as the solar companies and received no board audience or ability to give a speech. Once again, the double standard for residents and open arms for developers. Solar belongs on rooftops, not on farmland. This company will come and go after they make their big money, but myself and village residents are here to stay and will keep coming to these board meetings. Please vote no to Solar Factory Farms and yes to rooftop solar. I sent numerous emails and talked to you on both of these topics to back up my accusations. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Allen?
Hi, my name is Scott Allen. I work for the Citizens Utility Board as the Renewable Energy Policy Coordinator. For anybody who doesn't know, CUB is a not-for-profit utility watchdog and consumer advocacy organization established by the General Assembly with the 1983 CUB Act. We're charged with promoting the health, welfare, and prosperity of all the citizens of the state by ensuring effective democratic representation of utility consumers. So I recognize that I'm not a resident of Sugar Grove, but I appreciate the invitation from residents to attend this meeting and offer a comment. I thank the board for letting me speak. I spend a good portion of my work days talking to individuals about how to go solar, how to finance those projects, the benefits to them as consumers, but also the benefits to our electric grid. This wasn't the case when I started at CUB a little over 10 years ago. Solar wasn't really on consumers' minds. That's changed since 2016, and we've seen an exponential growth in solar since then, and we'll continue to see that growth for years to come. Right now, Illinois is about 9th in the nation in terms of rooftop solar installations. According to the Illinois Power Agency, Kane County has just under 3,000 solar projects energized. And of that, 2,957 are small distributed generation projects such as rooftop solar. So the benefits for rooftop solar are pretty widely recognized across all sectors of the economy. Right now, incentives for individuals to put solars on their homes are at an all-time high, and I don't see any time soon that growth is going to die down. In fact, a lot of municipalities in the state are proactively lowering the regulatory barriers to rooftop solar and are encouraging their residents to install solar. I would use Aurora as an example of that. We're looking at using discretionary funds to offer additional financial incentives to their residents. We passed several laws in this state since 2016 to encourage individuals to put rooftop solar on their houses, take part in the clean energy economy. The intent was to lower barriers for individuals, for them to use their properties so that we as a state can meet our statutory goals of transitioning. And until we can get a solar bill of rights guaranteed in legislation, we rely on units of local government to ensure that their citizens have fair and equal access to solar. So I do want to point out one line in that ordinance that talked about the need for making regulations. I think that that shows a pretty reasoned understanding of these benefits. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mike River?
All right, so as you know, my name is Mike Rayburn. We're here regarding the solar panel placement restriction. Becky and I would like to thank you for your time and consideration on this matter. I don't think my words can do this sentiment justice, but we do truly appreciate it. I believe we are aligned in our goal to help Sugar Grove become a better place in the present and the future. This is not a decision to allow solar panels on the roof. This is a decision to allow Sugar Grove residents the freedom of choice to pursue their maximum financial benefit. Earlier this year, I obtained a list of residences that had filed for a solar installation permit in the last 5 years. Last week, I went door to door to 52 homes. Residents I spoke to were overwhelmingly supportive of the cause, and my research found that the permits issued for the past 5 years statistically show this restriction's disparate impact against residents who own a home with a south-facing orientation. The village does not have data related to home orientation, but it is fair to estimate that the 4 cardinal directions each represent about 25% of home orientation.
We'll give you some extra seconds.
Okay. Home and orientation in the village. In this data, 30 out of 52 homes, 58% of the permits were for homes with a north-facing orientation. There are 11 homes with a south-facing orientation, making it nearly a 3-to-1 ratio. Having a south-facing orientation means that you're significantly less likely to be able to choose a rooftop solar installation and pursue your maximum financial benefit. What is that maximum financial benefit? Our combined bill averages about $225 a month. Over 25 years, those bills would total $67,500. Take that amount and subtract 2 items. The cost of our 14.8 kilowatt system after 75% of the purchase amount is offset by federal and state tax credits is about $8,500. ComEd charges about $15 a month to be connected to the grid. That leaves our maximum financial benefit over 25 years at $53,500, about $2,000 a year. We have recognized from the beginning that this could be an uphill battle since our research has showed how rigorously the village has defended this restriction in the past based on personal aesthetic preferences. Such preferences are highly subjective in nature, they are not fact-based, and they should not be used to drive policy. The fact is if this restriction was left intact, it would cost us approximately $10,000 over the 25-year span of our installation by limiting our capacity production by about 20%. It costs many residents of the village much more than that. I have talked to residents who cannot install a truly effective solar array because their house is oriented to the south. I have talked to many more residents who own a east or west oriented home that have to settle for a less than optimum system, one that produces far less energy than they consume. This restriction is much more wide-reaching and more financially detrimental to community residents than you may realize. The village has chosen to reduce costs through installing solar, both by approving front-facing solar panels on Shields Elementary School and by approving a plan to install a solar field on the municipal property on Arbor Avenue. As we know, the village is also discussing a community solar plan that will be a significant source of tax revenue. These choices are not aligned with limiting residents' ability to reduce their own costs to the maximum extent possible. Becky and I have laid out how we came to choose to file this text amendment to overturn this restriction.
Mr. Rayburn, we're gonna let you come back up during that item.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so you are the petitioner, so you can have an opportunity to have extended time under that item.
All right, thank you. To be continued.
Becky Brocker?
Do they all go on or just yours?
That one didn't.
All right, this one still works. All right, well, my name is Becky Brocker. Thank you. I just want to echo what Mike said, thanking you all for your time and consideration and research on this topic. As we know, aesthetics have been a really hot topic of discussion in this matter in the past. And so I just want to spend a little bit of time with you all, just chatting through some of the additional research that we did specifically on the aesthetic considerations to try to allay any concerns that might still remain. So first, we've seen a lot of concern in the past meeting notes about concerns that solar panels would fade and become unsightly. And so we did a little extra digging, and I did not know this personally, but I guess a lot of the misperception about the fading came from the 70s and 80s, when a lot of R&D had not yet been done on solar panels. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there and just explain that solar panels that are made in the past 15 years are designed not to fade. So actually normal roofs, siding, paint, all of those things do fade, but solar panels will actually be the thing that doesn't fade. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Solar panels today are made of anodized aluminum frame, which are either black or silver, silicone cells, and white or clear backsheet. And a local installer that we have been partnering with stated they're unaware of any modern examples of solar panels fading. The second aesthetic concern that I wanted to just quickly address is the concern that hail could potentially damage solar panels. So again, did a little bit of digging, found some great climate research that indicated that here in Illinois we experience hail about 1 to 4 times a year. Again, working with the installer that I previously mentioned, they let us know that they've installed over 1,400 solar arrays using over 90,000 solar panels across northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, and they've only ever had to replace 1 array out of all of those. Additionally, most solar panels actually have the most stringent hail rating that's possible, and they're actually designed to withstand up to an F1 tornado, which is winds up to 112 miles per hour. So again, thinking about modern solar panels, they're actually made of the same material that our car windshields are made of. So yes, of course, right, if there's a storm that's so severe that it would crack a car windshield, it could potentially impact solar panels. But again, I think we could maybe agree that, if the storm was that intense, we would have a lot of damage and a lot of eyesores to kind of figure out and clean up in our village. And I think the third concern, the third bucket I noticed was that owners might let their solar panel systems fall into disrepair and become unsightly. Given the substantial initial cost to actually get the solar panels for us after the incentives of about $8,500, combined with the fact that we're actually saving a lot of money on our energy bills, we have huge incentive to keep those panels in good working order. So again, I just wanted to kind of bring that to light as well. Again, as we've mentioned before, we really hope that we are basing this decision as a community based on the facts and not on aesthetic preferences, and that's why I wanted to directly address some of those concerns. Thank you all so much again for your time. We truly appreciate it. Thanks.
Denise, thoughts?
Just to tell you, or to show you how passionate we are about the solar panels, we've taken the time out of mourning the recent loss of our 41-year-old son to be here. So, we just wanted to ask, why this seems to be about aesthetics to you guys. Other towns have it, including Naperville. If Naperville doesn't have an issue with it, why does Sugar Grove? We spoke to realtors who's, both of the 2 top realtors in town said that it would increase our home values. We spoke with our solar company who said if we were to have an issue with our panels, it would take them roughly 72 hours to come out and fix the panels. So it wouldn't be, they wouldn't be hanging up there for, days or weeks. The other issue was, it was told to us that they didn't want to be seen from the street. And I can see that you don't want to see them driving down the front of the house. But on our street, on Sutton Court, there are 2 houses that have solar panels. And while you can't see them from the front of the house, if you drive down Westbourne, you can see those solar panels on the back of the houses. So, that doesn't quite make sense. So we just came here to kind of help, Becky and, support Mike and say, please help us achieve our maximum solar you know, I don't have another minute to talk about, but please help us achieve or make some solar potential that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
John Phillips.
Be me.
Good evening, Mayor, rest of the board members. Maintenance seems to be a big issue with people. You can create ordinance where you require the future builders or installers to have some type of bond. So if there's a maintenance issue, they go back and there's money there available. There's issues, and whatever issues you guys might have, there are surmountable. You can figure out ways to fix whatever opinion. Now, I can't fix your opinion on the fact that you don't like the looks of them, but it's happening all throughout the state of Illinois. Sugar Grove is one of the few cities still left that has this type of ordinance where you can't permit it. To me, why don't you guys be a leader instead of, you know, an obstacle to the future of solar and independent electricity? Some people thought that you could go out and get solar from one of these farms that they're creating in the area. Well, in my situation, the city has actually cost me money because I was able to qualify for a state grant that put the panels on my house for no cost. But I was only able to get 55% of availability because I wasn't able to put any in the front of the house. Also, create an ordinance where these solar companies, they want to put panels where you get the most sunlight. Create an ordinance where most of them go in the back of the house. There is a neighbor, as my wife mentioned, that if you're going down Westbourne, you can see his panels in the back of the house. He's got like 31 panels. I don't think he needed any in the front. Our back wasn't able to support 31. We were only able to support 17. So we're left in a deficit. I don't know if you guys are liable to the fact that you have an ordinance that keep us from having our potential of getting more electricity from our panels, but you guys should be aware about it. You know, that's your job. Your job is to keep Sugar Grove from being sued by people, and if you're putting up obstacles, you're letting yourself up for liability. You should be thinking about how to make this work instead of trying to put up roadblocks. And thank you very much. Have a great day. Hope you guys can vote to make this Sugar Grove a community where it's solar friendly and not because there could be people out there that will look at Sugar Grove and say, oh, I can put solar panels. I ain't gonna live there. I don't know how many people are gonna drive down streets and say, oh, I don't like solar panels on people's homes. I ain't gonna live there. Well, guess what? They're in all the communities around us, but not Sugar Grove. What's the issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's everybody that signed up ahead of time. Is there anybody that has public comment for actions items up for business that did not sign?
You just state your name so we have it for the record.
Hi, my name is Alan Burns. I live on Hall Street.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
So the reason I'm here is just to express a little bit of support for making a change to the zoning ordinance to allow people to put solar panels on the roofs of their homes on the front-facing side of the homes. I'm one of those people that wants to put solar panels on my house, and if I'm limited from putting panels on that street side of my house, then I'm not going to be able to reach my personal goal of being able to generate enough electricity to essentially produce all the electricity that I use in 1 year. If I can't use that front side of my house, maybe I can produce 60%, but not the whole 100%. My situation is maybe a little bit different than the majority of people right now, but maybe not in the future. I have an electric car, And when I got that electric car, I looked at my electricity consumption, and it did go up quite a bit, you know, almost double, which, you know, you expect. So for that reason, I need to have a little bit more solar capacity on my house, and that's what I would be looking for. So I just wanted to lend my support to the petitioners asking for this change in the ordinance tonight. And I hope that you vote to approve that change. Thank you.
Thank you. Where's the Jim? We've got Jeff this first, Jess. Sorry, we'll get there. Your name for the record, that's
Brian Kish. I live in Settlers Ridge subdivision, and I already have solar panels, but they were actually limited by the village. We had it originally designed on the side and the back. After went through the whole process, got everything approved, I get everything, they're ready to install the panels within a month. And I look at I get the design engineering drawings again, and everything's on the back of the house, nothing on the side. So I called the company, and we would have had to restart the whole thing. It would have been another year out. So we went ahead and installed anyway. The company, Sunbadger, I must have been their last job. They went out of business right after that. And we had to go through the permit process ourselves. It took 4 months just to get through that, and get it with ComEd and get the net metering. So I understand what it's like. I too was gonna buy an electric vehicle. Right now, we had 8 months of electricity net metering last year, and you know, our bills are down to next to nothing. But then at the end of the year, we did have to pay more. But hopefully with a whole year this year, we'll be able to cover it. The problem is when I do buy an electric vehicle, then I won't have the capacity. So I may, you know, at that point, I may want to add back to that south side of my house that you can't even see when you drive down the street. It's literally blocked by the two-story neighbor. But if I would have been able to stop it in the middle of the process, maybe I could have got it approved at that time. Because I've driven through our neighborhood, there's 2 houses that have it on the side that were there previously, and there's also one that has it on the garage that you can see from the street on the side, and it has it on the side of the house, and that one was just done 4 months ago. So I think there's kind of a double standard here, and we need to have something that's clear, but I think it also needs to be able to be open to the front, the sides, the back, anything, to be able to get that, what the homeowners need, because it's in their best interest. So I just want to say that as a Sugar Grove resident, been here 4.5 years, I love it, but yeah, this is something that you really need to look at, and make sure that you treat everyone fairly and open up the restrictions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sure, you're not.
Same thing, if you could just state your name for the record.
Yeah, I signed in here. My name is Mike Zanello. I'm not a resident of Sugar Grove, but as I understand it, in trying to reconsider your restriction here, there have been some references to another community called Kildare. And as it turns out, I'm from Kildare, and I'm the advocate that kind of recently led the effort that ultimately got Kildare, which, you know, by way of a backstory to how we came up with that front-facing restriction. And that's the benefit that Mike thought would be helpful to share with you all. So Kildare, whether you realize it or not, was the only town in Lake County that had a total ban on solar panels. And it was, the ban on them was actually reaffirmed 3 years ago by a 4-to-1 vote of the trustees. And we haven't had any turnover at a trustee level or even at a architecture commission level for 15 years. So coming into this whole thing, there was obviously the issue of how do we get them to now revisit something that they just paid attention to 3 years ago and try and get them to allow solar panels in some fashion. So I organized a very, ragtag effort, didn't spend any money, didn't do any mass mailings, and we had 120 people very quickly through word of mouth, all voting age residents of Killdeer, sign a petition, we presented it to the board, and overwhelmingly all the rationale was based on financials, just because of all the incentives, people, like you've already heard, doing other types of electrification through EVs or heat pumps or whatever. It just makes a bigger business case for solar panels. So along the way, I developed a pretty good relationship with our village manager. And, again, I reiterate the fact that, there was no turnover with the trustees or the plan commission, and quite honestly, or with the architecture commission, and quite honestly, even though there was a purported loose reference to the aesthetics, best I can figure out, and what the village manager told me, that in all the years, only one person ever called the village hall to basically voice their opposition to solar panels, even after all the press was in the paper that was based on my effort. So the village manager just kind of whispered in my ear, and he said, Mike, is there any reasons you can show that would help? He thinks there's a lot of movement among the board, but he goes, if we can just show some good faith, I think I can get them all the way there. And that's basically where we landed on this front-facing restriction. It wasn't done very scientifically. It wasn't done with any sort of communal aesthetic measurement. It was just a way, how do we get a board who voted recently to ban it, to do a flip? And in the end, just by putting in a couple of restrictions like we did, we in fact got a 4-0 vote allowing solar panels for the first time in Killdeer, albeit with a restriction that, at least in my mind, I view as temporary and just kind of starting us down the path. So, if that's helpful, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Going once? Going twice? We'll close that portion. Up next, consent agenda. Any requests to remove an item? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as previously stated?
So stated. Second.
I have first by trustee Shomas and a second by trustee Perrin. Roll call please, Tracy.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Perrin?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy. Aye. Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Up next, under general business, an ordinance approving a special use permit for solar, community solar, number 1 is for airport. Walter, I know we have, I'm sorry, oh, yes, for the record with Tracy, we have 6:43. Trustee Bonnie is recusing himself and leaving the room, so if you can make note of that. For the record, everyone, there's not a direct conflict. Trustee Bonnie does work for the city of Aurora, and so he doesn't want to be part of this discussion or vote.
Okay, following the discussion at the last board meeting, the ordinance before you is recommending, or affirms the plan commission recommendation to make or grant the special use permit for Solar One. And I guess, we're at the point where we're ready for a vote.
Thank you, Walter. Dan Kramer, I know you were not here last meeting, but I'm sure you would like the floor.
I would. Thank you very much. My name is Daniel J. Kramer. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Illinois, and I represent Suncoast Aurora Airport Solar Community System. And I apologize not being here last time. I had a family application, and I think Kelly did as well as she could have. She's very competent. Number one, I want to thank the village president. I want to thank the administrator. I want to thank the board. And I particularly want to thank the village staff for the time and effort they put in. It was an exhaustive process long before I was ever retained in this, and I think everybody did their job. I think these 10 people that spoke in favor of community solar tonight are a good indication that we are a society that realizes the benefit of solar energy. It's free from the sun. It's something we should take advantage of. It's renewable. Now I understand rooftops are different than a solar array, but this is a small community, 2 systems. that are gonna directly benefit the community. And it's not just green energy, there's a huge financial benefit for the community as a whole. It's certainly gonna economically benefit the village of Sugar Grove, it's gonna benefit Aurora Municipal Airport, it's gonna benefit Kingman School District, which most of the people in this room that are residents or outside of the village have children that they're paying for or did at some time. I realize there's other districts that touch the periphery. And talking about Kingman School District, when you drive to the corner of Kesslinger and Meredith Road, what do you see? You see a solar array that's lowered the electric cost for Kingman High School up there. Nobody's died with that facility there. Nobody's complained about glare in the CAT classroom or kids having to wear eclipse glasses because of it. And there's absolutely no screening. There's a security fence of a chain link cyclone fence, no slats, no anything. If you drive a little bit further up Route 47 to Lily Lake, that school was a country school on the verge of closing. But with all the development around Campton Township, it's an active grade school now. And you look slightly behind the school down the hill, and what do you see? A solar array that's greatly reduced their electrical tax burden. Not a tree, not a shrub, not even a fence around it, and there's been no children injured or drivers blinded by any glare. So I think, again, this is a project that is very good for the village. As far as process, the applicant did everything they can at the level of applying to make the application complete. There's a number of things that are in your ordinance that don't happen until the construction phase. The Plan Commission and staff totally realize that, and they've made those as conditions attached to special use. I know at the meeting I was at on March 4th or 5th, I know Trustee Lindy, you mentioned in terms of zoning that there's a lot of other uses in the multiple lists that could be located there that might generate more revenue to the village. But as a person much wiser than I once told me, your job as village board members is to look at the petition in front of you fairly, not your wish list of what might or might never come. And so far, Aurora Municipal Airport, other than wanting at previous times runway expansion, hasn't had anybody else propose any type of M1 use in this property. We truly believe this is the highest and best use. We've got a living example of a residential community right next to a solar facility for Kendall County benefit, right in the backyard of a very nice residential subdivision that the homes are selling between $350,000 and $450,000. They haven't had one complaint at the county level, who owns the facility, or the city of Yorkville that had jurisdiction to approve or not approve the zoning. And those homes, the backyards are only about 20 feet deep. There's a board-on-board fence, and then the solar array is inside of that. So from your second floor bedroom window, you can look down at it. There's no trees big enough to screen. If any of you took advantage of the site accessibility today or yesterday, or just in living in the community, driving by it, you won't see where these panels are by and large because of the heavy growth in the perimeter. When I was here on March 5th, the two issues that seemed to be the 800-pound gorilla in the room were, number one, we've got to get those external ComEd lines buried. We hate all those poles. We were able to do that right after the meeting. Samuel Damone went to ComEd, and it wasn't free at a cost of several $1 million. ComEd said, you know what, we'll consent to bury them. You front fund the cost if you get your special use. And we did make that knowledge known to village staff. So if we're not approved, you're gonna have those poles. If we're approved, and that was such a red light issue, a red line issue, they're gonna go and it's gonna be buried underground, off-site from both of my clients' arrays. I think that's a huge accommodation. A second issue that came up consistently was glare, and I think that's certainly a legitimate question for you trustees, for the neighbors and so on. When the consultant was hired to do the glare study, they did it on a certain average tree site. but they didn't have the trees measured. My client was able to get another consultant who actually was able to do a drone over and actually calibrate the height of the trees. And that study, which again, we furnished to staff since the last meeting when Kelly was here, showed absolutely no glare bleeding off to any residents. Now, in fairness, there is one home on Snow Street that is not affected by glare, but would have a sight line between the trees. My client, if you approve the zoning tonight, cannot go out and start building tomorrow, next week, next month. As Tony indicated, they have to comply with FAA review, they have to comply with all sorts of hydrological studies, tile study, stormwater study before a permit's issued. My client is more than willing to meet with that neighbor and agree to plant landscaping at my client's cost, not because there's glare, but aesthetically that they won't have to look at the panels. So that's something that we're willing to do. So long and short is, we're here tonight after two pretty good long frank discussions in front of you as a village board and a lot of staff input. I resent the remark that was made about competency of staff. They spent an enormous amount of time and they put some pretty strict conditions in their strong recommendation of support. And at the end of the day, that plan commission is your fact-finding body. And their recommendation was unanimously in favor of both petitions. So I think in terms of spot on the facts, the equities, and the law, you should adopt your staff report, you should adopt your plan commission's strong recommendation, and you should hear the voices of these people endorsing solar, even for rooftops, because another economic benefit with this being a community system, it's not going to benefit Chicago or Southern Illinois. It's going to benefit the immediate community around here because it is an accessory use to the airport, so they've got a real stake in the game. But it should, there can be some credits on local residents' utility bills as well. So you've listened to me pontificate enough here. I'll take a breath and be quiet. And if there's specific objective or engineering questions, I have Mr. Damone here, and he has an engineer here as well, because I am not an engineer by trade. But I do ask for your positive votes tonight. I think for the reasons I've set out, the positive votes would be well supported. And again, the legislation in Illinois is trying to make standards that are statewide, so it isn't like the Wild West that every community's got different standards for solar. So I'll be quiet. Thank you.
No, thank you, Dan. Stay up there. Just for the record, we did have one no vote. We did have one no vote on the plan commission. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a strong positive.
Okay.
For the record. So if we do have questions, they are separate line items on our under general business this evening, but they do bleed into each other. So as we talk about some things, we might talk about solar 2 at the same time we're talking about solar 1. For the board, do you have any questions for Dan at this point?
You had made mention about the benefits to the Kingland School District with this. What exactly was that?
Well, they have a solar array right at the corner of Kessler.
Yeah, correct, but it was in context of a reference of these two projects, and I wasn't quite sure if there was some direct payback that the school district was getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It lowers their electric costs.
You're saying on the macroeconomic level?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Now, could I tell you
Would it
that-
lower my expenses then, by that same logic? That's just why.
Yeah. In other words, could I tell you their bill was reduced from $3,000 a month to $2,000? I don't have an exact number, but I know empirically it has been. And I know, for instance, the one in the courthouse in Kendall, this young man sitting behind me in the corner, the handsome man with the bear shirt, which is a good thing, was intricately involved in that. And I believe it provides the majority, not 100%, but the majority of electrical services for the jail, mental health building, and the courthouse. And that's a huge savings for all Kendall County residents, not just Yorkville.
Sam, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there, on top of everything that Dan had said, there's also the the taxes, right, which directly from the project, I think we provided the write-up on that, which Progressive had done. So I think it's like 75% or something along those lines go directly to that. So I think that's, the main direct benefit.
Thank you. Any other?
I have comments, not necessarily questions.
Yeah, perfect.
So, my main concern is life safety. Being an architect, that's what I do all the time. I'm not an expert in the field of airport regulations, nor am I an expert with how they affect the proximity of the solar field. But I did do some of my own research. This included everything from reading through very long FAA documents, talking to pilots and instructors, reading articles on solar field fires, and the best way for fire departments to battle them. And I watched the FAA safety video for the Aurora Airport. For a non-pilot, it was actually pretty cool. I still am not an expert on these things, but I did learn a few things. From the documentation that I read, we cannot rely on the FAA to do our job of reviewing the location in regards to the safety of our pilots when they come in. The FAA did require a glare study that included pilots in the interim requirements, but they no longer do. They in fact don't really require a glare study to be presented to them in the form that is presented them for them to review. They rely on the airport in the form that they fill out to state that the project will, quote, will not cause any visual impact. And in further reading of that information, it relates, the information states that the airport has done sufficient analysis for potential glint and glare for the control tower. And it does not mention the pilots. So I believe we had a pilot in here stating this. My own research backs that up, what I could find. I found also that the FAA relies on the planning and zoning officials to be the, quote, front line in the land use decision making process around airports. So it is our job. Both locations are in the line of active runways. So if you draw a straight line, which I did, the solar array lines right up, it hits right in line with the active runways. It goes right through the property, right through where the solar arrays will be. Pilots have expressed concern over the glare and the location of the panels being so close to the end of the runway. If they miss, they say that they're going to go in a straight line in line with the air, where the runway is. I am concerned that if there's an overshot, they will plant into the array. And then you will have a problem where we have a plane in the array. We have to have our fire department figure out how to deal with that and try to rescue those people where the access, I assume, would be not the same as if it was a beam for a field or even if it was a building. That is my concern. That airport has a large number of student pilots and inexperienced pilots. We have to remember the use of that airport. Fires in solar fields are unique, have unique difficulties that may not be tough for large airports that have solar fields around them, but it may be an undue burden to our fire department dealing with those. To me, this is not about money. Maybe tax revenue or negative impact on home values. It isn't about potential of having glare in one's backyard. Where those are legitimate concerns, for me, it's simply about don't put a solar farm at the end of a runway where planes could crash into it. It's life safety. The buck stops with us on this issue, not the FAA, not a glare report, us. We need to do our own research and make sure that we protect the lives of our neighbors.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Other than the additional, I guess it was a glare study.
Glare study.
That you had done that had the drone come in, was there any other progress or, I'm trying to figure out what's changed since 2 weeks ago when we talked about this before and took a straw poll. Other than Trustee Lindy giving a very impassioned point there, because I am interested in hearing some of the feedback from you guys on that, but specifically, that item addressing glare on the adjacent homes. Other than that, what else has transpired?
Well, again, from the I think we gotta go back to the March meeting. Big one was ComEd Berry.
Okay.
Second one was glare, the additional glare study. You did hear from a licensed pilot who actually was the head controller at Aurora's tower back in the 80s, but lost his job when they struck, and he ended up being an air traffic controller in Abu Dhabi for an English contractor after the U.S. hired the people back here. And so he's been literally a 30-plus year air traffic controller and a 50-plus year pilot. And he didn't give a lot of testimony. I understand why he's here in April. But he said there's absolutely no problem from a pilot's point of view. From an air traffic control point of view, a lot of it is mechanical in the sense that they're looking at screens, but they're also looking straight down. They're not looking up for glare from the tower. And again, the beauty about our system is we can have some frank discussion and disagree without being disagreeable. But going back to Trustee Lindy's zoning question when I was here in March was, aren't there a lot of other uses that would be better in our M1 list? So, okay, if you had a plane going off the runway and hitting some solar arrays, there's no people camped out on top of them or under them. What if it land that's zoned M1, they brought in a data center that brings you a whole bunch of revenue and had 4 employees, and the plane runs off the runway, crashes the building, kills those 4 employees? What if it's Dan Kramer's law office in that zoning area, and we've got 8 employees and the plane runs off? Would you rather have them hit and wreck some screens or humans in those buildings? And that land right now is zoned M1. So Aurora Municipal Airport, if equipment dealer wanted to locate there, they have to do a building and site plan with staff, no village vote, they've got an absolute right to it. If somebody wanted to do a light manufacturing plant, no zoning vote, they just apply for a building permit. All I'm saying is the risk is not high considering what could be there, and there could be human lives at stake. And that's another point. I'm old and lost a lot of hair over the last 40 years doing this. I can remember, and as you longtime residents came to this village, the love-hate relationship with Aurora Municipal Airport. There's been a lot of opposition to runway expansion. Just because there's not an approved plan now, it doesn't mean that Aurora Municipal, if this project doesn't go, can't come back 1 year, 5 years, 6 years, continually for your successors in office and say, we've got a lot of traffic, now we need that expansion. And if you were a neighbor in close proximity, would you rather have silent panels or bigger, more frequent, and noisier planes closer to your house?
I always appreciate your debate and conversation, but I think I go back to your earlier comments that we have to go with what's in front of us.
Absolutely.
And not a what if that might happen.
That's it, that's it.
So I'm gonna use your words.
And I think the risk is small.
But what I do want to address, though, is I do want to address what Trustee Lundy did say earlier. And so, and maybe you all have figured this out and know the answer to this question. But from the pilots that did speak in front of us, one of the things that resonated for me is when they are on approach or they're taking off, they have to hold the line. So if they're coming in and they're on approach and they're going to land on that runway, they're holding a straight header to land on that, obviously to hit their mark and hit the runway. So I'm asking staff, because Heidi has it in front of her, it's not in our current packet, but we did see a document on one of the past board meetings that had the solar array and the collectors and their location on the lot. So I guess I want to go back to that document and say, is it far enough off to the side? Because I know specifically on this one, which is number 2, it was on both sides. So they can still hold a straight line. And what about the through, I guess my question would be on the north side and the northwest. I've driven Dugan multiple times and said, I think it's this parcel. Like, I'm trying to tell myself, and in some regard, it feels like it's off to the side and it's not straight if it were a straight line. But Heidi has it, and I'm asking staff to pull it up, but I don't know if they've been able to locate it.
There's one hiding, I'm looking for that one.
So it was, these were from the documents, I actually.
What exhibit is that?
These are.
Last.
Page 6. Yeah, that one shows, yes.
And then my point is, one, where are they located, and then two, to her point about emergency services. So what does it look like if there were an accident in that field? It is locked and secure and electrically charged.
Sure.
So I don't know if you have any experience with that, and if there were an accident, typically, you're not gonna see an accident necessarily, you know, on the side of the road, have this problem driving into it, but maybe aircraft is a different situation.
Understood, yeah. I don't have a ton of experience in it, you know, but generally I do, right? So it's something that would be handled part of the EPC process and building permits, but, you know, it's all fenced in, right? The emergency services are gonna have access to enter the facility, so they'll have we would coordinate with the emergency services prior to a building permit. Typically is what would happen, and a plan would be put in place with the fire department and, police and hospital, like ambulances, right? And so they have access to that, and then as far as the monitoring of the modules, the O&M company, there can be a shutdown on the DC and AC side. So, for instance, you don't want to have electricity backfeeding from the grid. So, if there's a power outage from a storm, the same thing happens, right? You don't have there's an automatic disconnect that stops electricity from flowing onto the grid and also stops electricity flowing onto the panels. And then on the from the modules to the grid, there can be a disconnect on that end as well. And so that's something that does that answer your question? I don't want to get too technical.
No.
So first thing you want to do is turn off the electricity.
And I want to know how that happens.
Through the disconnects. So there's an AC disconnect and a DC disconnect. The AC disconnect is to the grid, which stops backflow either way from the AC's, the whole grid runs off the AC. And then the modules are creating DC, there's an inverter. And so the panels can have a disconnect on the DC side as well.
And how quickly does that happen, let's say?
It can be done immediately.
We're still looking for this document. I know I need it, so can you just pass it down?
While you're looking though, immediately, is that the control system, the safety control system?
Correct, yes.
Does it automatically, it reads some sort of an influx that?
Yeah, if something happens, yeah, exactly.
Close the gate, so to speak.
Similar to what I was saying, if there was a storm.
If those fail, right, and the fire department has to respond, is it obvious to someone else where the manual switches are? I don't know enough about this, I'm sure fire department needs to.
Yeah, so that's part of the planning process, right? So before any construction starts, we'd have a meeting there with all the people that would.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Some of my documentation doesn't say that the FAA has concluded that there is glint and glare from solar energy systems to pilots on the final approach. I guess the question is how much, but they don't require the measurement for the pilots, so it's not that there is absolutely none. There is some. And just in the documentation, I can show you the reason but the interim requirement that did require an analysis for the pilots for the glint and glare was removed. The FAA had received 20 comments. It says on the interim policy, the majority of the comments were from persons who are involved with the solar energy industry. So,
Just comments, it wasn't.
Know your sources, know where things are coming from. So, from what I could read, and I can show you the documentation, that my concern is the life safety. My concern is not even so much the glare, except the glare would cause more of a chance for an inexperienced pilot to miss it or whatever. I am worried about life safety. I'm worried that we are at the front line to make that decision. And looking at where they're active, there are currently 2 active runways according to the website. One is that is inactive until the 20th of this month. but the one runway, does line up with the property and the arrays. And I know it might look on a flat map like it's really far away, but I know in an airplane, when you miss something, it's not like, oh, it's just a driveway away you miss. It's a distance away. And I'm concerned that that is too close for a miss.
So, obviously, I want to just take a step back, because this has been a struggle, right, since this has been in front of the village board on a multitude of levels. I think solar tonight in general, everything we discuss encompasses the front-facing residential, and it encompasses this solar array field. So, along with Heidi, I've done my due diligence. I've spoken to many people. I've spoken to the airport. I've spoken to recreational pilots. I've spoken to commercial pilots. There's never a want or desire to add hurdles or obstructions to an area that could cause a problem. No one wants to do that. I think when you're a pilot, and once you leave the ground, that is something that you do by nature. You are taking chances as soon as you leave the ground. It's more chances, they say, on the ground than in the air. I'm looking at the solar field array, and couple of things is the distance from the runway, right? So I know it's on the back side of this lot, and it's buried pretty far back in the lot, and there's trees that are likely taller and pose a problem as far as pilots having to fly over that as an obstacle to land their aircraft. So there are certainly going to be things in the area that are going to be obstacles. We don't want to make matters worse. But I also go back to the fact that we had a discussion at our last board meeting, and we straw polled on where we stood on front-facing solar, and we'll get there this evening. And poor staff has had to listen to me for weeks as I've gone back and forth, and I come to this conclusion, and I share it with you. I agree with life safety issues, but I also agree that there are plenty of things that are obstacles for a pilot. My father happens to be a recreational pilot out of Connecticut and flies all the time. He's not dealing with a solar array near his landing zone, but he has to fly over a dike and land quickly before he hits the reservoir. So there's issues, right? Not every airport has a perfect case scenario. I also go back to the front-facing solar, and I 100% have no problems in telling you that I do not like the way they look. I wouldn't want them on my house. I will not put them on my house. But I do believe that you have the right to have them on your house, and that's a choice that you all make, and this board should make that for you. So this has been a hard one for me, because what you all might appreciate about our village is that we have ordinances that keep our village a certain way, and we don't want to change that, because we don't want it to just go to hell in a handbasket. But I believe that that's maybe the mentality of things in the past too, is we aesthetically want things to be a certain way, and we do. I saw on a board report this evening that we're going after code enforcement over garbage in a shopping center, which is great to see it in his board report. But I go back to this is what's in front of us. And I believe if I'm gonna give homeowners rights, I'm gonna give landowners rights, and they're one and the same. And our issue here is preventative, and how do we prevent worst case scenario from happening? And everything that you have to do is to prevent that. And that's just where I've gone back and forth. I've been for it, I've been against it, I've been for it, and against it. And I've come here tonight with all of this solar lined up. And if the vote comes down to me, I know where my headspace is gonna be on front-facing solar on residential, but also I feel like I've come 360 on this issue. And Aurora, the city of Aurora has property rights. And our job is to say, is this special use permitted in this area? Have they gone through the glare study? I mean, there's residents that can have solar panels on the backside of their ranch home and have a 2-story house in their close proximity and have glare in their window. Well, they don't have a say on whether there's a glare study done before that install is done, right? So I look at this and say, we've asked the petitioner to bury all that utility stuff. We don't want to look at it. It's extremely expensive for you to do so. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're looking at this from a perspective of residents don't want to look at it. And so anything you can do to make landscaping more of a buffer for those residents, it's a quiet use. We're always going to worry about safety of pilots in this area. These solar fields are around. They fly over them all the time. The biggest concern is just on approach. My concern is the fencing on this array is to ensure that you're not just taking it straight across and fencing it in, that you're actually fencing down and around so that if there is a plane that is landing, that they're getting over those panels and that fence wouldn't be in their way. They've now cleared that fence. So I believe from what Heidi has here, that would be the fence line, but I'm not 100% sure, so I would need you to say, go ahead.
Sure. I just want to understand what, are you saying you would want two separate fences?
No,
Or-
I think that what this is showing here, and maybe this is, it's going
I think
down.
that is what you're seeing is.
And that's what I would assume is the fence line.
Yes.
I'm not looking for it to do this.
Yeah, okay, understood.
It needs to just go along the perimeter.
Yeah, that's how it's, okay, yeah.
So, for what it's worth, that's my opinion on the solar fields. I understand there's lots of hazards, there's things that have been brought up about cracking panels and leaching into the water and a lot of that, and that can happen on a house, and those chemicals could leach down a roof line. I think there's a lot of what ifs, and we have to operate in the here and now and make the best informed decision with the information we have. So, thank you.
Would there be any ability to move the panels that are in the way of the runway? There's plenty of space on the property.
On your red line?
Yeah, I just took a pencil the best I
So
could.
I guess her question is this a final plan on the array? I guess that this is probably giving you no visibility from the street, right? Because it's so deep on that lot.
Address that on the second one, or are we focused?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sean, yes, you're right, we're on solar number one. I knew we were
But I
gonna
know
talk
we're
about
gonna-
both of
yeah.
them together, because it's one project and
Yeah,
one
I-
vote, two votes. So, the same thing exists, do we have the subject property number one then with the array on it?
That's on the south side of the airport, correct?
No,
North side.
West. West.
Northwest, off of Dugan.
Okay.
No. Can you scroll up, Dan? Actually, right there.
She's just there, you know. And where's the runway relative?
Well, it shows the center line.
Yeah.
The center line right in the middle of the RTC down there.
I can speak on the layout with respect to the runway protection zone for CS1 right now, and also CS2 when the time comes. But my name is Brittany James. I spoke at 2 meetings ago. One of the engineers on this project, and the panels for this site are placed to be outside of the runway protection zone. You can see the dashed line with the 2 dots. That's the runway protection zone limits that we received directly from the airport. So those are accurate. So the panels are placed to just be outside of the current runway protection zone.
Are there any questions?
Heidi, that doesn't answer your question, does it?
No, my concern is,
If she's drawing a straight line, right?
I'm drawing a straight line, can you just avoid?
There's a pilot that's gonna go long or short. Is there a piece? Is there any allowance?
I don't have that answer right now, as it would require further analysis.
Yeah. I would say there's a greater risk for bird strike for pilots as opposed to crash solar array fields. So, if there's a concern, we want to have crops around the airport, things like that, that could let nature or habitat come around the airport, so.
Actually, I had heard from a pilot that cornfields are great around airports because you land and you have a greater chance of survival.
Yeah, but he's right, just like ponds, you get a lot of geese, right? That's so.
Yeah, there is.
It is I was thinking
Well,
GIS.
I don't know if there's any more discussion about a motion to approve the ordinance, approving the special use permit for community solar number 1.
Thank you, trustee Michaels. I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Roll call. I have a first of trustee Michaels, second of trustee Shomas. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Shomas?
Aye.
Trustee White?
No.
Trustee Lindy?
No.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
And for the record, just in case there is anything to come back on, it is a 3-2 at the moment, but I'm going to be an eye on it as well. Next, so that motion passes, I'm sorry, it passes with my vote as a 4-2. Item number 2B, ordinance approving a special use permit for community solar number 2. Sam?
And I didn't want to interrupt you if you want to talk about the layout of the solar panels on the south side.
Thank you.
It's right appropriate.
Thank you. So that was the one I thought you were referring to, Heidi, and I don't know if you as an engineer, Brittany, I'm sorry?
Yes.
If you could give us the distance between the actual runway, I know they have to cross 30 still, but, and the array as it is on this, do you have that in feet? Do you know how far it is?
No, I currently do not have that exact information, but it could be found. But again, with the CS2 site, that is outside of the runway protection zone as well.
Okay. I guess
There's a scale on the drawing, right, so maybe you can help them estimate.
I cannot.
No, so she made it, so.
Yeah, there is a scale on the drawing.
There is?
Yes, if you show me where,
I can't read it with glasses on.
you know, what distance you want, I can.
So I guess what we're trying to figure out is where do you start here until you get to the runway?
Okay, we could find that.
It's not,
But it's not on the drawing.
In those sheets, there's also an aerial shot to give you an idea, but you can't measure it that well.
While you're here, you drew this straight line, whether it's, I don't know.
I just kind of eyeball it with I might.
So I don't know if you guys did that, if this array were moved some over here to eliminate the cycle, I don't know if that's possible. If that's truly the straight line.
I don't know if that is a straight line, we would have to.
Okay. But it's outside.
Yeah, so this one is next time. And fencing is all outside.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Any more discussion on this particular item? No?
Yes, so, so, like, we don't have an issue reorganizing things. We have to go through the FAA and whatnot. So, I'm not sure exactly, to be honest, I don't fully understand what, exactly you're asking here.
So just
Or what you're looking for.
Just if
more
a
so.
pilot were holding that straight line on approach,
This is from
and would, and I like I
from
said,
a pilot.
to be honest with you, I don't know if there's trees, which I
That
assume
helps
there
a
are.
lot. There's some measurements.
Yeah. So okay, Sam, can you come over here for a second? I don't know if this is.
Now, that's not
what
me,
you-
I got that as
So
an email,
the reason
so.
why it's designed in a certain way is to,
Maximize the sun.
well, that too, but actually primarily was, because we had to go through the FAA process and to stay out of, the airports. So they kind of guided us with a CAD file as to where we need to stay out of.
Okay.
And that's essentially pretty much this fence line is what was available
Okay.
on the property.
Okay.
And so I think there may be some more here potentially, but, you know, we were just trying to keep it back, but it's something.
But that has already been consulted
Yeah,
with
so
the FAA.
if it's for, we submitted, yes,
Okay.
but we, yeah.
And they gave available space,
FAA did not, the airport did.
the airport, yeah.
And so, yeah, and the fence, you know, I think there may be some more available to that end, but, I would have to, I wasn't expecting a conversation.
No, I understand. And is this all
That's-
trees? Or is that?
It's
is
well,
that
I think it's wetlands and trees,
Okay.
and then there's just all through there.
President Cohen, can you just supply a quick summary of what was just discussed there so that?
For the record?
Yeah, please.
So this document, I don't know if it's page 22, but what packet was this?
I think it was last week, the last meeting 2 weeks ago.
It's not in the current. So our last agenda dated April 2nd, under item, the solar array number 2. This document is marked as page 22. And the discussion is just whether or not the panels can be relocated in an area that would not be in a straight line to the runway. So that is the question. The answer basically is, this is the information that was provided by the airport in the document as to where the panels could go. Information provided by the airport on where the panels could go.
Well,
sorry,
may I make one comment?
Of course, Dan.
I think the base question is, they've got to go through the petitioner if the special use approved for site approval, both with staff, with Aurora Municipal, with FAA. And I think the question Madam President is asking is, if those bodies say you've got to move panels someplace on site or reduce the number of array by, and I'm picking a number 100 to create, yes, that would happen because we've got to go through a total site plan. Really what you're being asked is the special use is approved, but you're not approving the final site plan. They've got a long way to go after. Tonight's not the end of the journey.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more discussion on this particular item? No?
A motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve as previously stated. Trustee Shomas, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Michaels. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
No.
Trustee Lindy?
No.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
And for the record, Trustee President Hogan. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for your
ladies and
patience
gentlemen, for your
with
time.
us as we've gone through
And
this.
comments.
Thank you. Okay, up next, item C, approval of Village of Sugar Grove Main Street Resurfacing Project Phase 3 Engineering Agreement. Brad is not here. Are you?
Okay.
Thank you. Scott?
So this is the SCP agreement with KingCom to have the, this is for the village's match portion for the resurfacing project on Main Street. The eligible match is 75-25, and this is the next item also aligns with that, and that's the joint funding agreement. This is the agreement for the Phase 3 engineering, this first.
Any questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item C under general business as previously stated?
As stated.
Thank you.
Second.
First out of trustee Shomas, second out of trustee Heron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Bonner?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Up next, item D, a resolution, Village of Sugar Grove Main Street Resurfacing Project Joint Funding Agreement. Scott?
Again, this is ties into the previous item. The engineers will be EEI for this project. I failed to mention that on the engineering one. My apologies, it is in the packet. And then again, this is with SCP money coming via KingCom.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item D, the resolution as previously stated?
As stated.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I have first by trustee Shomas, second by trustee Heron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Bonner?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. Up next, item E, ordinance, amending village code eliminating leaf burning. Chief?
Good evening. The last two board meetings, this discussion item has taken place. The first one was back in March 19th. The board was looking for additional input from the residents, so information went out for residents to attend the next village board meeting, which was April 9th. And this topic was brought up as a reminder, this is under the health and safety code. We had a number of residents that were concerned about health conditions. They may have health conditions themselves or family members, and the smoke was getting inside their homes, as well as the permeated into furniture. So we're looking for a recommendation to ban leaf burning.
Thank you, Chief. Any further discussion on this item? I believe everybody was present during the last discussion. Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item E, the ordinance amending the village code to eliminate leaf burning?
So.
The first out of trustee Heron, do I have a second?
Second.
The second out of trustee Bonnie. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Bonner?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Opposed?
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Thomas?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-2. Thank you. Up next, item F, an ordinance amending village code, oh, sorry. Oh, I read that. Item F, ordinance, zoning amendment, roof location limitations for solar collectors. Your mic is working, Walter, I'm not gonna make you get up before I, offer the floor to the applicant. You can certainly come to the podium as well. Anything to add, Walter?
Well, I really have nothing to add other than the ordinances before you.
Yeah. Go ahead, you're fine. He was not waving at you, he was waving at the clock.
Sorry, I'm waving off the clock, sorry.
Can we give him a clock though?
Start by 3 minutes. No, the ordinance that you have before you is approving the amendment as recommended by the Planning Commission. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Rayburn.
All right, so I'm back. Just basically picking up where I left off, starting with one more argument is with the concern is panels can fall into this repair. So in order to keep the full amount of the state tax incentive, you're required to produce a set number of kilowatt hours over the first 15 years of the solar array's lifespan. If someone was to let panels fall into this repair, they have to pay the state back part of the tax incentive. Another reason to not let them go into this repair. So to pick up on my comments, basically I was reaching my conclusion. So Becky and I have laid out how we came to choose to file this text amendment and overturn this restriction. We have talked about the history of the restriction within the village board and rebutted all publicly made arguments in defense of this restriction from past village meetings. We have also explained why the village suggested alternatives to rooftop solar, such as subscribing to a community solar project, installing a Tesla roof, or waiting on hydrogen cell technology are insufficient or impractical. We explained how overly restrictive codes like this can hinder population growth by dissuading potential residents from choosing Sugar Grove. It's slightly out of the purview of this particular discussion, but we also believe that 765 residential filing fee is an unreasonable barrier to limit residents from having their voices heard in this manner. Please consider reducing or eliminating this fee in the near future. Fundamentally, this is a community-based challenge to a code that impacts the property rights of each Sugar Grove resident. We understand that being a village board member can often be a difficult and thankless job. We understand the Crown and Aurora Airport projects, project driven by outside developers, create extra pressure and invite increased scrutiny of village board decisions. There are many eyes not currently in this room that are monitoring these proceedings. I would argue that changing this code now, on top of objectively being the best for the village's future, is the best for the village board optics and overall, and represents the path of least resistance. Residents, as well as the federal and state government, are overwhelmingly supportive of solar technology. Why would Sugar Grove want to jump in front of a moving train in defending this type of regressive restriction? Approving our petition would be a goodwill gesture, showing the board welcomes and values community input and concerns, and is willing to evolve personal views as public sentiment shifts. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, please stay there in case there are any questions.
Speak faster next time.
That's me and my slower pace, so not great.
Well, like I said earlier, in our kind of a discussion last board meeting, I was a no on front facing, and staff has graciously listened to me over the last 2 weeks, as I feel like I waffled back and forth and would come up with an argument and then another side to that. So what I asked staff to do yesterday was, if it were approved and if it passed on front-facing solar, how can we make it still where it looks as cleanly as possible as an install, okay? So I agree, I think it was Ms. Feltus that brought it up regarding the home that has it on the backside. There is a home that I drive by on a regular basis, and when you pull up to the intersection and you look for traffic, you see their array. Well, it's on the back of their home, right? There happened to be a corner lot, but it's on the back of their home. So in some regard, you know, you're still seeing it. And so the point of keeping it off the front facing eyes, I understand, and very much about the aesthetics of the village, and everyone keeping their property in good repair. The solar for me is a financial decision for a homeowner, and we shouldn't get in the way of that. And so I have changed my position, but I am concerned about how it's installed. And so if you can pull up, this is what I asked staff to come back with, just on my concerns. And if you all have additional concerns, then please bring them up. But they created some items in here. So mounting locations. panels are permitted on a roof plane facing a street subject to the following conditions. Conduit and piping, no conduit or piping shall be visible on roof surfaces facing a public street. Support structures, no solar panel supporting structures on roof surfaces facing public street shall be visible. Item 3, commercial and industrial property mounting locations. Properties with a commercial or industrial zoning classification may only have solar panels installed on a flat roof that is hidden by a parapet wall or otherwise screened from view. And that's for the 47 corridor or any industrial or commercial. So those were the concerns I brought up. I don't know if anybody agrees with them, disagrees with them, but that's why this is in front of you as additional conditions if it were mounted front facing. And I'm not sure how you feel about those additional conditions.
Specifically, item number 1 is one that I did mention as an alternative during the planning commission comments, so that makes sense to me.
Okay.
How, they
Item number 1 there, as far as conduit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That makes sense to me for that one.
I was looking into this on my own home, which incidentally, Mr. Raver and I have the exact same floor plan as you have. I noticed in some of that. Interestingly enough, and I was exploring it with a contractor, finally kind of gave up with them because they just wanted to run the pipe up and just paint it white up the eave, and I didn't like that. And that was kind of the final sticking point, but it's fine. They didn't want to eat the cost of it. The alternative here is what? They're gonna drill another hole underneath the roof to get to it?
I don't know how they do it, but it is installed on many homes without conduit visible.
Okay.
So as to my knowledge, there's many that like ran through the attic rather than on the rooftop.
All right. And then how would we define it? I like the spirit of this, but how would we define a support structure? Right, I think
So
that's
it's
something we would
the
have to
mount-
nail down.
Well, it's the mounting of the panels. They don't sit flat on the roof. They sit on a support structure.
Yeah.
So
And
there's.
you wouldn't want to see, what
Wouldn't wanna see
is
the
we don't
support
see them. Yeah, I've been noticing in some of the neighborhoods, there's a nice, it almost looks like a frame around it. I don't know how else to describe it.
Right.
That seems to hide some of that. I don't know if that's gonna trap moisture underneath or whatever the case, I'm sure it's all figured out.
How does this address such things as Tesla's roof system?
What's Tesla got?
An entire roof system. So it's the whole roof, the entire thing is solar.
Is anybody buying that right now?
So I do have context on that if you'd like to hear it.
Okay.
So this is part of my research process. I did get a quote from Tesla, and currently my house with a Tesla solar roof would be $168,000. So it exists. It's just extremely cost prohibitive right now. So
Yeah, I think the price might start going down, but it's an entire roof system that you're purchasing.
I think,
yeah.
That's okay.
I think almost like baby steps, we have to
Right.
take what's in front of us.
No, I'm the one who's always.
I understand.
Progress for a while. Personally, I like the look of solar panels. I'm a sci-fi person, so, I love green.
Listen,
I think the Tesla roof looks like a roof. It looks
It's
like
an
moving
entire
panels.
roof. It's a roof.
It doesn't look like you have solar panels, and that's but it is incredibly expensive. So.
That and Tesla's like product quality will kind of fight over time. Their cars have not had a long lasting quality even though all the solar roofs, but I'd be concerned about that myself if I did go that way at some point in my life. That's all.
They also make a product that is flat, that goes in between like a standing seam roof, there's these seams that they can have, and I don't know. I think that would probably be,
But to tonight's business,
Yeah.
we don't, do we have to nail down these details
We
tonight in
don't.
order to?
What I would say to you though is, because you're going to front facing, these are conditions that we can put into the text amendments that we can add without going back through the process. So the goal is to vote and not put it back through the process. And with that being said, I was the deciding factor last time. I don't know that I would be today, but those would be conditions that would be acceptable to me to go the other way, to vote for it. So those were 3 items that I asked staff to put. But I don't know how you all feel, so I need to ask how you feel about those 3 items. And maybe you're still no.
I in general favor of those items. I think if we can make something that's substantive and enforceable, you know,
And these are-
or at least nail down some of the definitions around that, then I think they're good.
Why, I'm curious, why number 3? Because in commercial and industrial property mounting, you don't want it if they have a slope roof, you don't want it on the front.
You don't want it on the corridor, commercial corridor. So if they have a parapet wall, like new industrial, and they wanna do solar install, then you're not gonna see it, and they can hide it and still get the effects from it with a 2-foot parapet wall, or 3-foot, whatever it is.
Well, depends on how tall the
Right.
pitch is, and then you get,
We're not gonna get into the details of the architecture of the building, but just as a.
Usually, in, you know, industrial property, you're not as concerned about the appearance.
Yeah, I understand.
We block the air conditioners through there.
Right, no, you do that, but,
I think the other thing too, and the reason this comes to light is, I give you no more recorded, but, Chase Bank is an example. They put their solar arrays all over, and if you go through other communities, there are some, I mean, as you go to St. Charles and you go to Costco, you drive by that one on the corner, conduit everywhere, and it looks terrible. I mean, so we can still go by aesthetics, but if we're gonna make conditions and approval to allow those commercial buildings and industrial buildings, we wanna put something in there that they can still do it. And this is again, going back to our residents asking for something, and they don't have the luxury of having a roof that goes up, so this is a concession. Okay.
Is this
anyone-
adding undue, expectations on the residential community?
I think it supports it, gets them what they want front-facing solar.
Yeah, but these added items.
If I may,
Yes.
you know, I've always been opposed to having them in the front. There are numerous times throughout our codes where we make decisions based on aesthetics. I think the petitioner's done a wonderful job of explaining their position, but I think it's a 100% an economic issue. But for us, it's more than an economic issue, it's also aesthetics. That's why we have ordinances that require, we can't have metal buildings in industrial parks. We've got an industrial developer who would love to come in with a metal building. We said, no, you have to put a brick on it. It has to be it's concrete or block. We have a sign ordinance that prohibits signage because of aesthetics. So there are great reasons, economic reasons for allowing this. But I think there are aesthetic reasons for not. And so for me, it's a balance. So my balance has always been, I don't want them on the front. I mean, they have the ability to, and I'm only talking about your specific case, they have the ability to utilize the other parts of the roof to a great benefit. And the fact that they can't get the perfect amount out of it, I think goes against the balance for me. So that's the way I look at it.
My daughter, coincidentally, last year, for a school project, had to write something on a controversial topic on local government. She chose front-facing solar panels. And where it is a teenager's documentation, she does cite it, but she did do a hand count versus on all the satellite images of the houses just for her research, so give it for what it's worth, for, you know, but she did count 580 homes that the south side is facing the street. So, and from her calculation, that was approximately a little over 16% of the homes in Sugar Grove. So, since you guys said you didn't know, there's a teenager's, you know, hand counting of it to give some kind of idea, if you want, you know. I don't think she's way off, but, you know, but that's her hand count.
So I'm guessing that's a corner lot.
Well, she was looking specifically for like the.
But she said, because it's rear facing, so if there's 500 and some odd, she said facing the street.
Homes that have the front is facing,
Oh, I see.
the south side.
Oh, so they have solar panels on the roof.
No, that's just.
No, this is just houses in Sugar Grove.
That's how many that ordinance impacts.
Okay, thank you.
And like I said, take it for, teenager county, or computer, but it's something other than nothing, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? I guess my question to you all is, would you be agreeable? I know where you stand, trustee White, but if it were approved and passed, would you be agreeable to adding item F with the conditions?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think they're reasonable conditions.
Yeah.
Trustee Bonner? Are you?
Yes.
The conditions are okay?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Michaels, I don't know if your position has changed at all?
No.
Okay.
And he did it. So I'll take those.
So,
I'll make a motion.
okay,
I'll second it.
well, we'll wait for his motion.
Motion to approve the amendment with the exhibit A2, item F included.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. First out of trustee White, and second out of trustee Herman. Roll call, please.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Trustee Heron?
Yes.
Trustee Michaels?
No.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Up next, we have item G, a resolution approving a contract with Four Seasons Landscaping for landscaping services at the village entrances. Scott?
The enhancement committee was at the 6th month, was given a $10,000 budget to do a project. They've met several times and met a couple times with Four Seasons Landscaping to come up with some designs to improve our entrance monuments. The item is in your packet that there's a drawing of what we could get done. Four Seasons is a company that we do have a relationship with, and they're able to do the work for us, both with the wage requirements, prevailing wage, and not to get this done appropriately with the law. And it's someone that Brad Merkel, our public works director, is familiar with and comfortable with. And that's the recommendation from the committee and for myself to do improvements on these sites to upgrade what people see when they enter the village.
I'm sure this will have some discussion. Did everybody have an opportunity to look at the landscape drawings?
I guess my question is on the right-hand side, the hydrangea, are those block the sign at all?
None of it will not block the sign. That is it.
It's not height of them, so.
Right.
Timeline on completion of this?
They would start work, later this week, so soon.
Oh, okay.
They would start in this current fiscal year. So there are 3 outcroppings, the entrance monument sign, the flagpole area, and then the entrance sign on Route 56. So there's 3 signs of landscaping. It certainly, I'll be out there, I'm sure there will be other enhancement committee members out there when the layout, when they're putting the hot down and layout is happening. Brad will be there, and she's flexible. So this is what the plan would have with the dollar amount for those plantings, reusing whatever they can, but still creating just like anything where you're trying to piecemeal a project together. You can use some plants, but it's pretty sparse over there. So, and I think the tulips that were planted in the winter look beautiful, and it has some color at our entrance sign. So we are very much about aesthetics in Sugar Grove, and our monument signs should reflect that.
I'll make a motion for approval of contract for season landscaping.
Thank you, trustee Bowden. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a second on trustee Heron. Roll call, please. Tracy?
Trustee Lonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Heron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes 6-0. Up next, item H, ordinance approving and setting a public hearing date for proposed TIF District Number 3 at I-80 and Illinois 47. Scott.
So this is the next step in the process with, which has been discussed regarding TIF 3 or I-8847 TIF. The eligibility study was presented, other items. This item doesn't bring any new information insofar as anything to do with the project itself, the TIF, or any new data, but we are obligated to pass an ordinance setting the time and date and location of the public hearing at least 45 days prior to the public hearing itself. The date for the public hearing would be June 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Waubonsie Community College to help accommodate any and all that would like to come and have their voice be heard. This also does set the date for the JRB, where the taxing bodies will meet to discuss the TIF establishment itself. Again, this is strictly about the establishment of the TIF, not the project itself. That will be the stat for the public hearing, and then also for the JRB as well. There will be more other information that will come to light between now and then, and mailings that have to happen to taxing bodies, to properties within 750 feet. There's also some emails that we have to send in communication to interested parties that have signed up for information about the TIF. But like I said, this is just the next step in the process. No real new actionable information other than when these meetings are going to occur.
And carry on these questions and discussions during public comment. He brought up just some items, so and just for clarification. So obviously this ordinance just sets the date for a public hearing. He brought up TIF redevelopment agreement. That is not part of that meeting, is my understanding.
You can establish a TIF without a redevelopment agreement. That is not, it's not part of the TIF establishment process. It is a separate agreement that the village can enter into with businesses that are located within the TIF to do work. As we've there was one up for discussion about the potential Casey's project on Prairie Grove Commons that never was enacted. That was a redevelopment agreement that the village board was discussing with that entity almost 10 years after the TIF was established, so that there are two separate functions in a TIF. It has to be established first, and then the redevelopment agreement can be approved after the TIF exists.
But the TIF agreement would be discussed in front of the village board.
Absolutely, the village board has to approve any redevelopment agreements that happen once the TIF is established.
Okay, and then also expanding on the documents by SB Friedman in the eligibility study. That particular document, again, it doesn't go to the creation of a TIF because you can create a TIF district without a project. So those documents in particular, to answer his question, when would those come out?
Those are all part of the redevelopment.
All part of the redevelopment. Okay. Any trustees have any questions regarding that?
So what will be presented at the Waubonsie?
So at the public hearing, there will the items that will be made available are already in the project area eligibility report and development plan, which are already available and have been available on our website. That's the main portion of items that will be subject to this one. If there are other zoning or annexation or other things that would come forward, those aren't part of this public hearing. This is very specific to the creation of the TIF.
Is the finding discussed? The finding was that it was within a flood area?
That's right. That's in the eligibility study. It has the finding. It was that the flood was the one factor test that was found to be there, and that's what the EEI study is.
And that's what the public could comment on.
Absolutely. And then the intent of this is that the public hearing happens in front of the village board, and then at a later date, I believe it's 14 to 90 days after the public hearing, the village board has to take action and vote. I believe there's 3 ordinances to approve the creation of the TIF. So this is the opportunity for people to be heard. The village board, it's at a village board meeting. That will be a regularly scheduled meeting of the village board that will take place at Wabanzi, so there will be board action after the public hearing. But the intent is for the public hearing, for the people to make their voice heard ahead of the vote by the village board. It's the requirement in the TIF law to have it. There's certain dates that have to be hit.
Any other questions or discussion?
No, that's a meeting that we already have on the agenda. It's not a special meeting, a separate meeting. So there's gonna be other village business going on, or we're gonna make sure we're gonna clear the docket. It's basically
It's the first item under
the
public.
one item on the agenda that'll be happening that evening.
And there'll be multiple items. The intent is to have the public hearings are typically at the top. So if there's folks that are only attending for that reason, they can have their voice heard and get on with their day. But it was a hope to try to have as many possible public hearings and other items at regularly scheduled village board meetings, so that people can plan ahead as far as possible. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to do the public hearings at a regular schedule.
Any other discussion? Can I get a motion to approve item H, the ordinance setting the public hearing date for the proposed TIF district number 3?
As stated.
Do I have a second? I have first on trustee Thomas and a second on trustee Barron. Roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Thomas?
Aye.
Trustee Barron?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee White?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries 6-0. Up next, public comment, on additional discussion items this evening, we have A, Waterfront Place Amendment, and B, letter from State's Attorney's Office. So, or anything else, yes, but those are other things we will be discussing this evening.
I know Perry did say he'd like to speak at both parts.
Yep. Okay, just what you just went over with for clarification for anyone that has information that they're opposed to the TIF, you're saying you bring it up at that meeting? The validity of the one factor finding.
That would be where you address it. If you have issues with the SB Friedman study,
Right.
that's what that public hearing is about.
And is that still limited to 3 minutes, or what's the format for that meeting?
I know this isn't supposed to be a Q&A, but this is important to everybody here, so she believes it's 3 minutes, but she's gonna confirm.
All right, let me give you some food for thought. Until then, this is a picture of a watershed that includes the Crown property, which is the lower Fox River watershed that runs into Fox River, and then it's part of the Illinois River, and both the Rock River and the Illinois River are part of the greater Mississippi River watershed. And this is a picture here of the watershed, Lower Fox. This is the Crown property right here, right at the tip of my finger, right? It's about a 70 square mile watershed, okay? And what the definition of chronic flooding is a drainage report that says 88% of the property drains, and it goes into a couple of different areas, and it causes chronic flooding. But in the conclusions of the EEI study, it says, it appears that all runoff from the study area currently contributes to downstream flooding within Zone X, which they show on this report. I'll skip it for now. And also areas of Blackberry Creek and the Fox River, and future development in the proposed TIF District 3 could result. There's nothing specific about what the water flows, how much water flows in to create a chronic flooding condition that's hazardous to public safety and health and welfare. From what I've seen in the land reports from SEMCOM that was commissioned before this report, it showed 6.8% of the land was subject to chronic flooding. It also suggested that the soils absorb a lot of this water. There's no real proof or any indication that any of this water even gets to a point to where it's causing any harm to anyone. So I don't know if you guys think that that's the case, but I think you need to give it a little thought, because what they're suggesting is it is a hazardous situation. It's dangerous, and I don't believe that it is. So, and we'll probably talk about this some more, but thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Did you have anybody else on your list?
That was all I had listed. I didn't know if anybody.
Yes, please.
Thank you for your support, Trustee Lindy and Trustee White, and no vote on the solar factory farms. I appreciate that, even though the rest of the board did not vote no. I find it interesting that the board can make an amendment changing rooftop solar during the meeting, but not for the solar farms, and allow ordinance to be violated. I believe this will come back to bite the village, setting the precedence for decisions that were made tonight. I think this could be used as, you know, concerns and when other developers and other people had issues. Frankly, if you weren't gonna approve the solar on rooftops, I would just advise that the petitioners tonight would just go against the ordinance, because we can already approve stuff and fail our own ordinances, so why, you know, where's the accountability? And if you make one person accountable and not others, I just foresee that there's going to be problems and potential legal ramifications to follow suit. As for Mr. Kramer's remarks, it's good for everybody. Well, it's also good for Mr. Kramer's law office. He's been a big proponent of these solar farms, probably making a fortune, frankly. And I just want that to be on the record too, that he's heavily invested in this. I am not. I'm trying to protect my property. I'm getting zero from this. Probably it's just going to cost me money, or my kids' future, or our values of our property. So I have nothing invested in this. Other people that are speaking do. And as for that pilot that came in and talked, that the Kramers brought in, is kind of obvious sitting behind him that, you know, a pat on the back and everything else. I mean, if that guy came out of the goodness of his heart, I would highly doubt that. So once again, you know, money talks, and I'm not getting anything from this. I did find it interesting that there was no discussions from the last board meeting on any of the ordinances, nothing about amending them going forward. You know, and just Mr. Kramer coming in tonight, and we frankly bowed down, and there was a lot of concerns about the solar too, which I don't know if there was stuff behind the scenes that was that we're not privy to, or if I need a FOIA, but it seems like attitudes changed, and it seems interesting. And as for the remarks for the M1 zoning, I disagree with Mr. Kramer. That property was bought for the intended use for the airport and expansion eventually. And if you put the solar panels up, you can't expand it, so then why did they take the ground in the first place? I don't think that they can build other buildings on there, and if they can, then I want to buy some of it too. I think it fails the use of the intended, and the city of Aurora only owns a part of that. They're just in charge of it. The federal government paid for most of that property.
Thank you. Any other public comments? We've got one right here first.
My name's Bob Romundi, and this is just a comment. You made this Arbor Day proclamation today, and then you're gonna have Crown come in, maybe, and level all those trees in the flood zone that are ancient oaks, black walnuts, large trees, huge canopies, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna plant little saplings here, there, everywhere, that'll take decades for a canopy to develop to offset the air, the pollution, and everything else. You see what they just did at Waubonsie. They took all the barrier trees down along the road. They're not building all the way out to the road, but all those barriers, it's all gone now. You can see all the way back to the subdivision, to the back side of the property already. So, and you're gonna do this for all the warehouses and everything else that's supposed to go by Crown, and just blight out that whole spot there. That's all nice trees now. So, I have it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
So since Exhibit 2A or A2 items were a little bit of my expertise, I reached out to my contractor and he had a clarifying question on item number 2. That one currently reads support structures, no solar panel support structures on roof surfaces facing a public street shall be visible. He's worried that one is a little bit too unclear, that you need support / mounting system under each panel to be able to mount them to the roof. So he's thinking, you mean like just general large obstructions on the roof related to this, or are you talking about actual support structures underneath the panels for number 2?
So good. Yeah, I know, not a Q&A, but here we go. So support structures, sometimes they won't take the panels all the way to the edge, and you'll see the rack that it sits on. So it's to hide all racking that the solar panels sit on. So it seems like we do need clarification, and I don't know how we go back. Well, we can go back tonight and do it if there's detail that you believe you can add, so that there isn't confusion when a petitioner, somebody comes in for permit.
What do you think you would change?
Just to add that language, that the complete rack needs to be covered. So it's basically
I
that.
think it says that by saying it won't show us.
Right, so I guess I go back to you as to what's the clarification?
I'll just pass along that the complete rack needs to be covered and see if there's any follow-up questions. That was the initial question we wanted me to check with.
Fair enough,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Yes.
My name's Dot Hoffman. I'm from Blackberry Township. It seemed tonight aesthetics is very important to all of you guys. I certainly hope that you consider that when you plan on a truck stop, a gas station, and the warehouses by us up north. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, going once, going twice. Sometimes we'll close that. Up next, Waterford Place Amendment, Walter. Danny, sorry, Danny.
Alright, so we have received an applicant to amend Waterford Place PUD to change the permitted use on lot 27 from a medical office building to an attached single-family dwelling and approve a preliminary PUD plan for lot 27. Our applicant, Mr. Kuhn, would like to build a duplex on this property. The Waterford Place PUD was approved in 2000 and allowed a medical office building on lot 27. The preliminary PUD plan for Waterford Place did not include lot 27, other than limiting the location of the driveway for the lot. The applicant has prepared preliminary plans that will show the layout of the lot where he would like to build the duplex, as well as provided us preliminary building elevations. He has agreed to make the building elevations of the proposed duplex to complement the existing Waterford Place dwellings. Village staff is of the opinion the proposed use is similar to the attached single-family dwellings that exist in Waterford Place currently. The Planning Commission held the required public hearing. There were interested persons present, and the primary concern that was expressed had to do with traffic on Capitol Drive and parking issues in Waterford Place. Due to the location of the proposed duplex, the concrete or the markings on the pavement will prohibit any kind of parking along Capitol Drive, and there will be sufficient parking on the duplex property for those residents. The commission recommended approval of the PUD amendment, which is attached in your packet with the conditions that they recommended approval of. And staff is looking for a direction on how to prepare the ordinance approving the amendment to Waterford Place and preliminary PUD.
Thank you, Danny.
And the applicant is available for questions.
Wonderful. Questions?
What is the hatch area on this plan? Was the money?
Hatched area.
Hatch on here? Here. It's just too small.
I believe that has to do with drainage.
It's a drainage site, so that under the King County stormwater ordinances, they require drainage, they got to keep the water on the site. So it's a drainage field, I guess, basically. I think it's to, I can't read either.
It operates like a French drain.
French.
Okay. Good.
think it's like gravel bed, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Does the applicant, plan on putting brick, I think it was a recommendation from the planning commission, brick on the front of the garage to be like the townhomes or adjacent?
Yes, that was agreed. Yeah, the conditions that are stated in the order are all agreed.
I was wondering if it was, for lack of better, direction, run it maybe 3 feet or 4 feet up on the west side that has the facing Bliss Road, just to give it a little more detail on that side of the building that will face. It had a lot of traffic from Bliss Road, people turning in. But with architectural shingles, the brick on the front, I think it's a good plan. I don't know how the driveway lays out, if, I know there's a curb cut, but I don't know if it needs to be wider to accommodate the duplex lot.
And it should be more than sufficient because you got 2-car garages as well. It's a pretty substantial driveway and we're using the existing curb cut.
And it's just a goofy turn for the people in the west that have to come around, so.
I actually accident zone key. Now you pull out one, you get back into the other.
Oh, I see, okay.
I was thinking about that originally too.
Okay.
It just says, sizable trim, remove shutters and add sizable trim. Do you have dimensions on the trim that you plan to add?
Similar to next door in Waterford Place.
Walter, do you know what the trim size is at Waterford Place?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I just think that was nailing fin or the brick mold around the windows. I don't know if they added anything else at that time.
So if this is sided, similar to what we did in Settlers Ridge backing to Gordon Road, when Ryan Holmes came in, we asked that the street side elevation, I mean, in this case, there's not that many windows to trim, so I think it would make sense to have it applied throughout the duplex. But I believe that was, if it was, like a Hardy or LP, it was a 4 inch or 6 inch? That was, Sean, you probably know best. It's 6, right? Yeah, it looks substantially different than 4 inch on there. So,
But I think this would be vinyl siding.
is this vinyl?
Yeah.
The architect's got it drawn as a double 5 inch, I believe, siding.
Okay.
They could add like an LP trim around it if you like. It's done.
Yeah. And then just in the eaves, is it on the side elevation to his point facing this road? Is it a different material, I mean, change in material, so versus horizontal versus a shape kind of thing? I don't know if they do that in the vinyl, the higher end vinyl does provide that. So I don't know if that is something that you've contemplated, or are you just running the vinyl all the way up?
I think it might have something different drawn in the entrance peak.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It does, okay. I think sometimes, and I understand where your headspace is at, Sean, with the brick on the siding, but I think just sometimes a change in material makes the building without having to add that layer of brick. That's just my 2 cents. I think it still looks nice with a larger window trim, with the material changes. Looks like you're also doing it in the front as well.
Yes.
What's condition 2B? Add masonry to garage facade and on other wall elements as appropriate. Who determines as appropriate?
Yeah. Came up with that. That's right, came up with the additional brick. On the west edge.
So is it all around the,
Yeah, I think the idea was the masonry on the garage facade and then just some changes to the architectural look of the wall, just to give it some variance. I think that was what we had discussed originally, because there was some windows added and things like that.
where are you talking about?
on the wall. So it says other wall elements as appropriate. So when we first submitted this to the Plan Commission, we had very preliminary drawings. And then in the interim, we sent staff the detailed drawings that you see now. And one of the comments at the time was to add some windows to break up the walls because they were, the preliminary plans just had pretty stark walls. So my interpretation of this requirement was to get it similar to Waterford, and then other wall elements were the windows.
So where is brick expected to be?
So the garage facade will have,
The whole front or just the pillars or?
Yeah, just the pillars.
So above the garage would not?
It's got it. So brick, and then brick from the windowsill down.
Okay, and then what about on the left elevation? Is there any, there?
No.
I know that's what I think that was all siding on the side.
Waterford hands.
Okay.
That's what they're suggesting, yeah.
But, Waterford does have it all the way across, yeah, above the grass.
I think I'd rather see it, you know, that left elevation if we're gonna.
Wrap it?
Place us.
Like wrapping it around the side of the garage.
Just that left side, that faces bliss.
Yeah, just, like,
Yeah, just to the bottom of that window.
So you're only gonna ask for it on one side of the duplex?
it, you know, if you.
I think if you're still, I know, I see the elevation and how it's sitting.
Yeah, I don't think that, showing the other side is just facing the grass.
Yeah.
The driveway is in the garage.
We would consider that.
Since we're not approving it, tonight, could they mark up just a print for next meeting, but do, just, like, you want to take that?
Sure.
You know, do what you want.
I think it looks nice too, just if it's like a foundational look of brick, where it's just, if you do decide if that's what you're asking for, then it looks more like a foundation sitting on brick, and then you're not, it's not required to go real high, but it.
No, just at the bottom of that window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then running down the entire side, obviously.
Well, that side of the house.
Yeah.
Could we, by any chance, when it comes back, can we get, as a comparison, something what Waterford ones look like?
Can you bring an example?
Bring some pictures.
Yeah.
Here you go.
It's just a line street view.
He's got a.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm just, you know, getting what they're doing and sometimes comparing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, they're talking about wrapping.
Yeah.
Outside the garage.
Cause I think part of it is you're trying to mix it with, it's right there with Waterford and.
Not trying to make it look exactly, but
Right.
trying to coordinate.
You want it to look like it belongs, it's the same family.
Yes.
So it sounds like the village board is okay with the use on the property?
Oh, yeah.
And just some details with the architecture.
Yeah, we'll work on it. We'll get it accomplished so that the board is happy with it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't know if it's relevant, so tell me if it's not. We're making them, you know, as far as the form of appearance, match the rest of the adjacent homes. Does that imply that these two homes are also in that homeowners association?
No, they're not.
Goes along, then why are we asking them to jump through those hoops?
Because it's part of the PUD. It's part of the same PUD.
Then wouldn't they?
So you have to amend the PUD.
I guess I'm talking about enforcement and other things down the road,
Yeah.
right? I'm wondering why they wouldn't have to be in the rest of the homeowners association.
Because this was a separate commercial lot, the rest of the residential. So.
Yeah, but new stuff when it comes in, we do it in Hanover, new homes get built. And we approve separately and they're included.
Yeah, that's a developer adding,
Association.
adding it to the association. We don't have that situation.
So are you saying that you shouldn't be concerned with the architectural
That's
standards?
yeah.
That's what you're going to?
Yeah, if we're making them do it, then make them do it, otherwise don't. Just put a pretty duplex up there and not worry about making it look the same as everything else. I guess I'm wondering why we're making them jump through the hoops. We're not making them jump through all the
I
hoops.
think because it's a PUD, so the idea is all of that property, including that property and all the Waterford, is all in one PUD, correct? So you want some kind of cohesion with all of that, even if it isn't part of the HOA. So if they had a medical building facility there, it would probably have some similar architecture as the Waterford homes did, just so it kind of has some cohesion, is my guess. Is that the intent?
If I'm still looking confused, this is.
Yeah. He's making a good point. Lots of.
It's a good point.
I mean,
But without having actual elevations and renderings.
Yeah, but they're all still part of the. Yeah, but the development agreement, I would think the association would be.
But it's not part of the association. We can't make them be a part of the association.
Okay. All right, I'm
I don't think-
gonna talk in circles.
I
It
do.
doesn't change my opinion or feeling of it. Yeah. If it doesn't make sense that a medical, it just seems too small that a medical building would ever go there in retrospect. So I think, you know, if we've got someone who's willing to build a duplex there and bring in 2 other families into the community, rock on.
Yeah. I think it
That's
looks,
my official vote, rock on.
it looks significantly better here than it did in its original form to the plan commission and what was in their packet. So this, you're making great strides.
That's all good.
Thank you.
And we'll get it completed, and we'll work with staff on that.
Okay, so it sounds like, you're bringing this back under general business next board meeting, and I think the board, just is looking for some, you know, a rendering that has, the detail, a little more detail in it. Other than that, everybody agrees with the use on the property. So we'll come back for a vote next board meeting.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, letter from State's Attorney's Office. It is part of our packet, it's online. I'm sure everybody has had an opportunity to read it. The State's Attorney is not going to be putting this or petitioning this to the circuit court. So you can read the response letter. It does say, and it is online, that if somebody is interested in taking this on their own, they can. But we did vote on this publicly, so I wanted to make sure that the response from the State's Attorney's Office was also part of the record and people could see it. So if there's any questions from the board, now we need to ask. Nope.
I just want to go on record to say that I disagree with their findings on this, and I just want that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing more. We'll put that item aside. Up next, staff reports. Staff.
My report's in your packet, and I have nothing else to add, but happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott? Hearing none. Matt? Any questions for Matt? Walter?
I have no new information to share with you.
Okay. Walter, can you tell me how long ago we, did code enforcement, property maintenance and code enforcement in Sugar Grove Center? Was that done by letter? It says initiated enforcement action for litter cleanup at Sugar Grove Center.
That was the detention basin. They got cleaned up.
Okay. Is there no action required in the Sugar Grove Center parking area, islands?
I'll have property maintenance inspector give it special attention.
Okay. And also, I know it's been brought up before, Calumet's property,
Yeah, they're just,
it's awful.
yeah, a lot of plastic bags are blown over there.
It's worse than you think.
yeah, we cleaned it up before. It's bad.
Once you go through the drop off, it's bad. We tried to clean up what was visible from the street, but it's significant.
With the high winds recently and no foliage,
Yeah.
it's pretty visible, so.
Yeah. So can you also take that one on as well, Walter?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Walter?
Are we gonna require the Calumet's property to be mowed somewhat this year? It's, you know, we've had issues there, people going back there. A lot of trees are growing, but, I don't know, whether it's a proposed or complete ordinance.
Made attempts to contact the property owner with the objective of getting a more aggressive mowing occurring there. Just for background, in the past, the villages allowed that property owner to mow basically the front yard of the property and let everything else grow as it does. But over time, they've kind of taken advantage of that, and now they only mow the right of way. So we're gonna try and get them to move everything back the way it was originally set up. Please.
And there's invasive trees growing in there too.
Yeah.
There's scrub trees that need to come down.
Yeah, our objective is to convince them to remove all the volunteer trees. So don't be shocked when you see the trees being removed.
Is that something that could be brought, adjudicated through, if you don't get compliance?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Walter. Any additional questions for Walter at this time? Okay, Chief Brown.
I have nothing new to add.
Any questions for Chief? Hearing none. Brad is at WaterCom, so we will skip over unless you have a question out there that Scott will be able to answer or additional staff.
Quick questions, I had questions about the information about the forever chemicals and
Yep.
we can get that, statement on that.
Yes. The forever chemicals do exist in our emergency backup wells, but the emergency backup wells are not pumped into our water supply.
Yes, so just kind of wanted to make sure that.
But the threshold that they have established is incredibly low. So I think that trustee Lindy's, I think it's worth a discussion point at an upcoming meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just wondering if it was lower than what we were originally anticipating it to be as far as water detection levels are and that sort of stuff, even in our existing active wells. I fielded a couple of, questions from community members the day after that happened. They stopped me at Jewel when I was grabbing donuts. People know who I am. I don't know. So, yeah, I didn't have an answer.
Well, and there is treatment, right? So that's what would have to happen if we ever had to use those wells and put them as part of our water supply. So it would have to be treated. There's obviously costs associated with doing that. And then the costs were so high on, I forget which well it was, that had the manganese, which is why we basically capped that and abandoned that well. So, but yeah, good discussion to have with Brad now that there's some more information out there. And, there is, for folks that don't know, you can reach out to Public Works if you have questions on water supply and water, chemicals or what's in the water and that kind of thing. They're very knowledgeable, and this is their field of expertise. So feel free to reach out to Public Works. Okay, any other questions? Michael?
Thank you. So next month is the National International Council Shopping Center Show. We'll be participating in that again, with their focus being commercial developers, as well as corporate real estate managers who represent retailers and restaurants. In addition to looking for development opportunities, we're going to be partnering with CBRE, trying to find a restaurant tenant with a proposed 3,500 square foot spec building, which is adjacent to the proposed Starbucks on Route 47. And then, just as I did last year when I returned from the show, I'll give a recap to the board. This will be followed up by the International Council of Shopping Centers Midwest Show, which is September 10th in Chicago, Hilton, Chicago. Scott and I will be staffing the Sugar Grove booth, and we, of course, will be also updating the actual booth design. The last thing I wanted to mention was that we have our economic development assistant has started. Her name is Becky Wilt. Began last week Monday.
Any questions for Michael? Hearing none, trustee reports. Trustee Michael.
Nothing heard.
Trustee White? Trustee Lundy?
Just that, the list would clean up with Mary Ellen. It's gonna be Sunday this time, 4/28. From 10 till noon. It's a little different, so.
Thank you for sharing that. Anything additional? Okay, trustee Harris.
Interesting, someone brought up Wabansie and their trees going down. I learned this morning that they're building an automotive center. They're a nationally recognized program for their center, so I think that's a very positive thing for Sugar Grove and Wabansie, so very good. The only other thing, I'm about to head to Washington DC on Friday morning at 3 a.m. with 158th graders. So I may learn a lot. So get to tour the nation's capital with them and stay in the same hotel. I don't have any idea what to expect. I was asked, I did not respond. I was asked again.
You missed your email?
I think the fourth time they asked to chaperone, and I said yes.
You're the perfect guy for the job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I have some handouts in case you run into legislators. Send you a
Yeah, and then, so we get to walk through the tunnels in the Capitol building, which is unique. That hasn't happened for this group before. I'm not sure. There's 3 long days. Like we get off the airplane, get on a bus. We don't even go to a hotel. We start the tour immediately, and we don't get to the hotel until 9 p.m. So.
I will have one of mine as his.
Yeah.
He won't be the chaperone for my particular, but she is going on the trip.
She's on bus 3.
It's a trip that the kids remember.
It is.
I think it's going to be amazing. I went on a student government trip as a junior in high school. Ours was a week long. I think it was 10 days, and we had groups from. I don't think we had all 50 states. My roommates were from Alaska, but we went through and did training sessions, learned how everything worked, and it was a really awesome experience. I'm really glad these kids get to do it as 8th graders. A small portion of it is an 8th grader.
Could be the one and only time that they make it to DC, so.
Yeah.
So big impact. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Trustee Powdy.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I have nothing this
All right.
evening.
Trustee Shomas.
The Forest Preserve District meeting, there wasn't anything germane. It was probably the quickest meeting that I've attended, lightning fast. Park District, they've got some color rendering plans for, and I was actually looking on the agenda, they talked about 2 of their parks, and I don't remember if it's the Dugan Park West Playground or the Black Walnut Trails Park. But they're getting ready to break ground and do some pretty exciting things with one of those parks. I don't remember which one it was. I did in that discussion with them, if you feel that any phone calls, Scott, from people over there, make them aware of the discussions that we were having regarding the solar field and whether or not it was going to impact their sports complex out there. Just so they were aware, and they said that they were going to reach out if they had any questions. If they hadn't, then my guess is that they didn't have any questions. It was far enough away that nothing was raised there. So that's it.
Okay, under President's report, I attended the ribbon cutting at Subway, which is the reopening of Subway. It's very modern, owners are wonderful people. Hopefully, people will continue to patronize Subway, seeing it was missing for so long last year. So we're glad we are back open. The Arbor Day is, as we said earlier, is April 26th, and we do have a program in collaboration with the enhancement committee at the partnership as well with the township, the Park District, and Kiwanis Group. And, we will be doing a program for them, about a 30-minute program, and then we mentioned this earlier, but everybody gets a seating. And then also on the 27th, you can probably find on the library's page, there's an event, kind of overflow on the 27th for any, Sugar Grove students that would like to come by the library and pick up a tree. Let's say they go to McDowell, as an example, then, that will be provided to them on the 27th at the library. I had the privilege of having lunch with Dr. Sylvia Smith from Canopy and Giant Steps. And just listening to the work that they're doing with autistic adults, and more work that can be done. And we talked about housing and different things like that they're trying to get to. So hopefully there's some work that we can do, and keep your eyes and ears open for any grant opportunities that might affect them, because they have capital needs. I know that Mr. Rich has donated land to them for housing, not too far off Main Street, and they still have that goal of building a residence for adults with autism. So just like I said, keep your eyes and ears open. But it was a wonderful meeting, and they're doing wonderful things, and they have a campus here at Sugar Grove Day program. And then lastly, just the drive down. So today, we are hitting the road here shortly for our drive down for Lobby Day down in Springfield tomorrow, and some meetings on Thursday morning in conjunction. So hopefully we have a successful trip as we do lobby for more LGTF funds, lobby against the grocery tax, police pensions, a lot of bills that are hitting all the communities. And hopefully the legislators are open to hearing our concerns, and just like you all coming in front of us, we're going in front of them for positive influence, and hopefully it'll influence their decision on how it affects local government. So that's all I have.